Martin Garbus. Martin Garbus, born August 8, 1934, he has argued cases throughout the country involving constitutional, criminal, copyright, and intellectual property law. He has appeared before the United States Supreme Court, as well as trial and appellate courts throughout the United States. He has argued and written briefs that have been submitted to the United States Supreme Court, a number of which have resulted in changes in the law on a nationwide basis, including one described by Justice William J. Brennan as probably the most important due process case in the 20th century. An international observer in foreign elections, he was selected by President Jimmy Carter to observe and report on the elections in Venezuela and Nicaragua. Garbus also participated in drafting several constitutions and foreign laws, including the Czechoslovak Constitution. He also has been involved in prisoner exchange negotiations between governments. He is the author of 6 books and over 30 articles in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Los Angeles Times. Shouting Fire is a documentary film about his life and career. He received the Fulbright Award for his work on international human rights in 2010. In 2014, University College Dublin's Literary and Historical Society honored Garbus with the James Joyce Award for Excellence in Law. The same year, Trinity College awarded him for his human rights and free speech work. He has represented dissidents in amongst other places such as China, Russia, Czechoslovakia, India, South Africa, and Taiwan. The Guardian called Garbus one of the world's finest trial lawyers and the founding partner of one of America's most prestigious law firms. The New York Law Journal called him one of America's finest criminal lawyers, a legendary criminal lawyer. In 2007, Business Week called him legendary, a ferocious lawyer who has received numerous media citations as one of America's leading trial lawyers and a ferocious litigator. Time magazine named him legendary, one of the best trial lawyers in the country. Fortune magazine called him one of the nation's premier First Amendment attorneys and legendary. Reuters called him a famed lawyer, while other media have called him America's most prominent First Amendment lawyer with an extraordinarily diverse practice and one of the country's top 10 litigators. Super Lawyers magazine designated him as a super lawyer. New York Magazine and Los Angeles Magazine have named him both as one of America's best trial lawyers and one of America's best intellectual property lawyers. Education. Garbus graduated from the Bronx High School of Science in 1951. He earned his undergraduate degree at Hunter College in 1955 and his Juris Doctor from New York University Law School. During that time, he drove a taxi for 2 years in New York and worked at the Ford Assembly Line in Tarrytown, New York. He thereafter attended Columbia University as a master's candidate in economics, at the New School as a master's candidate in English, and at New York University Law School. He was admitted in New York and 6 other states and federal appeals courts to the United States Supreme Court bar in 1963. Early career and legal scholarship. After law school and after 2 years in the United States Army, he clerked for Emile Zola Berman, an internationally known trial lawyer who represented Sirhan and Ephraim London, a Supreme Court advocate and constitutional lawyer whose firm represented Alger Hiss and who won every one of the 9 cases he argued before the Supreme Court. He was in 1966 co-director of the Columbia University Center on Social Policy and Law while he taught law at Columbia. He was director counsel of the Roger Baldwin Foundation of the ACLU, legal director and associate director of the ACLU, as well as director of the Lawyers Committee to Defend Civil Rights, ran for political office in 1974 and formed his own law firm, Frankfurt Garbus, in 1977. He subsequently taught as an adjunct professor at Yale Law School and has lectured at many law schools in the United States and abroad, including Harvard and Stanford. A Fulbright scholar, he taught in 2005 and 2006 at Tsinghua and Renmin Law Schools in Beijing, China. At the same time, he represented Chinese dissidents. He taught the judges, government officials, and drafters of China's new copyright and intellectual property laws. He also participated in rule of law seminars in Shanghai and Beijing. Notable cases. Garbus was involved in the following notable cases. Represented Herbert Blyden, the leader of the Attica Rebellion. Argued in the Supreme Court after a trial in Alabama. Garbus won in King v. Smith 392 U.S. 309, a unanimous 9-0 decision striking down laws in 14 states on the grounds they violated the Constitution. These laws had disenfranchised over 2 million people. Served as co-counsel in Ashton v. Kentucky 384 U.S. 195, and won a Supreme Court decision that effectively ended all criminal libel laws in the United States. Served as co-counsel in Jacobellis v. Ohio 378 U.S. 184, and one where the Supreme Court held unconstitutional an Ohio statute seeking to regulate motion pictures and for the first time defined the term national community standards that led to the ending of prosecution of obscenity cases in the United States. Served as co-counsel in Goldberg v. Kelly 397 U.S. 254 1970 New York, an entitlement case in the Supreme Court that Justice William Brennan called probably the most important due process case of the 20th century. An indicted co-conspirator in the criminal prosecution of Daniel Ellsberg. Represented Lenny Bruce in a criminal case in New York, successfully asserting a First Amendment defense against an obscenity charge. Represented Don Imus when he was fired by CBS by asserting a First Amendment defense. Represented Viking Press and Peter Matheson in one of the longest and most bitterly fought libel cases in American history that led to the development of libel precedent favoring journalists and publishers. Governor William Janklow filed a libel suit in South Dakota, and FBI agents filed suit in Minnesota claiming they were libeled by the book In the Spirit of Crazy Horse. See Peter Matheson #Crazy Horse lawsuits. The South Dakota court rejected Governor Janklow's attempt to stop Penguin from publishing the book. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed the dismissal of the $450 million case, and the Supreme Court refused to reverse it. Represented 16 defendants in murder cases, stopping executions while chairing the committee to abolish capital punishment. Represented Leonard Peltier in a clemency petition to President Obama. Represented civil rights leader Cesar Chavez in free speech, commercial and criminal cases, and the boycott in California and elsewhere in the United States, all in support of the United Farm Workers. Represented criminal defendants in the French Connection criminal cases in New York federal court. Sued Eminem and Dr. Dre in copyright, suit on behalf of French composer Jacques Laussier under New York federal court. Represented author Paya Pira in a copyright dispute over Lolita with the estate of Vladimir Nabokov. Represented author Terry McMillan in a commercial suit in San Francisco federal court to set aside a settlement agreement. Represented songwriter and pianist Oksana Grigorieva against actor Mel Gibson. Grigorieva alleged that Gibson beat her during their relationship and then defamed her in the media. Defended Chief Justices of the Indian Supreme Court during the emergency. Defended the Cuban Five, accused of murder in the Florida federal courts before the United Nations and in their application for clemency to President Obama. Defended Sikh nationalists before the Punjab court and in the United Nations. Defended media defendants and investors in libel and other commercial cases brought by fraudulent Chinese reverse merger corporations in the New York state courts. Defended Chinese dissidents in Beijing and Shanghai. Sued by South African government for disbarment due to articles Garbus wrote in the New York Times and the New York Review of Books criticizing South Africa's legal process. The case was dismissed on First Amendment grounds. Represented the government of Rwanda in negotiations with the United Nations over the holding of criminal trials in Kigali, amongst other places. International elections observer with President Jimmy Carter's commission. Represented Jane Doe in a libel suit against the New York Daily News and Mike Michelari. Represented the Metropolitan Opera against attempts at censorship of the death of Klinghoffer. Represented freelance gossip columnist Roger Friedman, who was fired by Fox News after he wrote a review on an unfinished film by viewing a bootlegged copy of the movie online. Other clients include Nelson Mandela, Andrei Sakharov, Vaclav Havel, Samuel Beckett, Al Pacino, Daniel Ellsberg, Philip Roth, Michael Moore, Sean Connery, Michael Caine, Michael York, Lauren Bacall, Agnes Martin, Pace Gallery, Estate of Mark Rothko, Robert Mapplethorpe, Cincinnati Museum. In January 2021, Garbus called on the New York State Bar Association and one of the appellate divisions of the New York's Supreme Court to disbar Rudy Giuliani following the 2021 United States Capitol attack where, in a prior SAVA public speaking, Garbus has participated in lectures and debates before the American Bar Association, the Bar Associations of New York, Washington, and Los Angeles on a variety of topics, including trial practice, jury selection, copyright, and the Supreme Court. Garbus debated former independent prosecutor Kenneth Starr at venues across the country. He served as a commentator for NBC, ABC, CBS, PBS, Charlie Rose, CNN, Fox News, Court TV, CCTV in China, and the BBC, Time and Newsweek. Garbus has written numerous pieces for the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, the New York Review of Books, The Nation, and Huffington Post. Garbus' career is set forth in the award-winning HBO documentary Shouting Fire: Stories from the Edge of Free Speech. Garbus spoke with journalist Christian Amanpour about challenges to free speech, including social media, political vitriol, and the role of the media. He also spoke with Daniel Lelchuk, who runs the Talking Beats podcast, for a discussion of the First Amendment, what it really means, and how perhaps, in this social media-dominated era, there are implications that go far beyond what previously would have been just a person yelling in the town square. Garbus is also a TED speaker, where he presented on free speech and the First Amendment. International work. Garbus has worked for the governments of the former Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, Poland, China, and Rwanda as a consultant on constitutional, media, and communications law. Recently, in 2002, the government of China hired Garbus to help address the problems posed by digital piracy. He represented dissidents Vaclav Havel, Nelson Mandela, and Andrei Sakharov. In 2004, he was appointed advisor to the Chinese team responsible for the creation of China's intellectual property laws. Personal life. Garbus has two daughters. Director and producer Liz Garbus, who is married to producer Dan Kogan, and the author and teacher Cassandra Garbus. Awards and recognition. Garbus has won several awards for his work. PN USA First Amendment Award of Honor 2007, New York University Law Alumni Achievement Award 2004, Hunter College Law Alumni Achievement Award 2005, Hunter College Hall of Fame 2005, Marquee Who's Who in America 2017 and prior years, Marquee Who's Who in American Law 2017 and prior years, Civil Liberties Union Award 2007, Senator William Fulbright Award for Global Leadership in International Law 2012, James Joyce Award from the University of Dublin for Excellence in Law 2014, Trinity College Award for Defending First Amendment Cases 2014. Books. The Next 25 Years: How the Supreme Court Will Make You Forget the Meaning of Words Like Privacy, Equality, and Freedom. 7 Stories Press 2007 and 7 and 7 and 7. Courting Disaster: The Supreme Court and the Unmaking of America. Law. Times Books, New York, 2002. Times Books Softcover, 2003. Tough Talk: How I Fought for Writers, Comics, Bigots, and the American Way. Introduction by David Halberstam, Random House. Times Books, 1998. Times Books Softcover, 1999. Traitors and Heroes. Athenaeum, 1987. Random House softcover, 1988. Ready for the Defense, Farrar Straus and Giroux, 1971. Avon softcover, 1972. And Carroll and Graf reprint, 1995. North of Havana, The Untold Story of Dirty Politics, Secret Diplomacy, and the Trial of the Cuban Five, The New Press, Illustrated Edition, 2019. A Candy Store, to be published 2021. Appearances in films: Shouting Fire, Stories from the Edge of Free Speech, directed by Lise Garbus. The American Ruling Class, written by Louise Lapham. This film is not yet rated, directed by Kirby Dick, discussing the Motion Picture Association Film Code. Lenny Bruce. Swear to Tell the Truth, directed by Robert Wade. The First Amendment Project. No Joking, directed and written by Bob Balaban. Frankie and Johnny, produced by Paramount, directed by Gary Marshall. Dear God, produced by Paramount, directed by Gary Marshall. American Masters, biography of Philip Roth, 2013.